Yeah, it's been a little while. I know you've been under the gun with castor oil and governmental constraints and restrictions, which I'll just voice my own personal opinion about a lot of that because of my historical experience with people using castor oil and the censorship of what you're allowed to say about it. Um, it's really quite ludicrous and ridiculous. Again, these are my opinions, but let's talk about castor oil a little bit. Now that you've kind of come back from, I would say a roto-rooter from FDA. What are we allowed to say, and what are some of the potential benefits for the use of castor oil that would help people have less toxic lifestyle?
Awesome. Well, castor oil, as you know, and maybe not all people listening know, is a vegetable oil. So it comes from a plant and it's based from a bean. And so it's one of the most ancient plants. And one of the first person actually who started talking about castor oil was the original beauty influencer Cleopatra. So she absolutely loved castor oil. And this is what many people know, love, and use castor oil for is the cosmetic purposes. So she would use castor oil on her brows, her lashes, her hair, her skin. Really is one of the staples of her beauty routine. And now, fast forward in the future, we're here now in 2020s. And what happens now, but we have a resurgence of castor oil, and everyone is interested in working with castor oil in terms of hair, brows, lashes. Most people come to know castor oil because they hear about it for like brows and lashes and hair. Most people think that it helps the brow, lashes, and hair to grow, but it actually doesn't help them to grow. What castor oil does is it's the most deeply hydrating and richly nourishing oil in existence, truly. Like if you feel castor oil, the touch and sensation of it is completely different from any other oil. Very thick, very viscous. And it's because of that, it really, really helps to nurture and moisturize and hydrate and give a lot of wonderful nutrients, such as like antioxidants like vitamin E. And then we've got all the beautiful omegas in castor oil. And it's got a beautiful physiological dose of iodine, which is nice as well, too, right? As an added bonus. And so, castor oil has all these implications in terms of beauty. And what I've been really working with castor oil over the past years, actually inclusive of my castor oil pack practice, which I could talk about shortly, is that I've been working. This has been actually like quite the long mission for me. And it started early on in my 20s is to try to live as much of a non-toxic lifestyle as possible. Because early on in my 20s, I started working for a natural homeopathic pharmaceutical company called Heal. And they studied the science of homotoxicology, which was the study of toxins within the human system. And so at that point in time, I started becoming aware, and obviously my lens opened up so much more once I went back to school to become a naturopathic doctor. But I started to learn about things like phthalates and parabens and sulfates and common ingredients that might be in our shampoos, our body washes, our antiperspirants, our deodorants, our body creams, our nighttime serum, our like everything, you name it. There's so many different ingredients that are chemically based and adding to our total chemical load in our body. And when the biggest issue is that people think, oh, well, if it's being sold, it's been regulated. And well, I'm here to tell you that people don't need to get an approval to sell anything. They can just start selling it in the United States. And in the United States, the other thing too is that only 8 ingredients are banned. Whereas in the EU, there's 1,300 ingredients that are banned. And in Canada, there's a few hundred, as well as I believe in the UK and in Australia. So we're really lacking, number one, in regulations in terms of cosmetics and ingredients that we're using and putting on our bodies every single day. And we're lacking the vigilance, right? There's a lot of vigilance in the natural health market, and I totally experienced that, over the past 6 months. Now one of my passions as well as working with castor oil cosmetically is, of course, castor oil packs. And like I've used them for years in clinical practice. They were first popularized by Hippocrates, the father of medicine. But I'm really, really reduced in terms of what I can say about them now. And so, in a nutshell, what I can say about castor oil packs is that they're probably one of the most grounding self-care practices that we can do at home. And when people are working in intensive protocols or aiming to feel better in their body because they're dealing with something, whether it's a chronic disease or it's an acute problem, um, people typically just don't feel well and they're in a state of stress and in a state of, non-rest. And if your body can't rest, well, then none of your natural body processes are going to be actually able to work well. So you've actually got to shift the body into calm, feeling good, being grounded. Because when you're rooted, grounding is equivalent to being like rooted into the ground, like a tree is rooted into the ground. When you're rooted, you can rise and you can feel better. And so, castor oil packs are another one of my passions. And we use them typically in practice over the liver. Like I do a liver pack nightly, but then I also use packs cosmetically. So I use one over my eyes as a replacement for my nighttime eye serum and brow and lash serum. And then I'll often use one around my hair for my weekly like hair nourishing routine, which I'm kind of due because it's winter over here in Canada. And I'm noticing my hair, especially along with hot head. I'm noticing it has a little bit of dryness, but yeah, so castor oil is really truly like a magical multi-use oil that can, for so many women, can simplify their beauty routine and just like let's start getting rid of the toxins. Like it's so imperative. I can't even emphasize how important it is. And it's not just beauty cosmetics, but it's like clothing. It's like, and my journey with my company with Queen of the Thrones actually exposed me. It would not be without Queen of the Thrones, I wouldn't be talking about things like toxic fashion and toxic beauty because like I was aware of it, but I wasn't as aware as I am now. Because when I created the castor oil packs, I needed to learn all about materials and quality materials. And because castor oil is that master carrier oil and it can't sit in plastic, I started learning about basically cosmetic science in terms of what happens to combinations of ingredients and or a sole ingredient like castor oil that's in a bottle, and what happens with heat, with time, with there's always leaching of plastic and everything. So, and oil just happens to be the perfect vessel to carry things into the body.
A lot of those toxins are fat soluble, right? So the oil just draws them right in, and then if you're putting it on your skin, endocrine disruption galore, especially for women. And we have the largest hormonal dysfunction that we've ever seen across the board. And I think to your point, beauty products. I mean, men don't have quite the problem. Not to say they don't, but men don't typically use beauty products. Men just wake up and slap some water on it. But women, there's a what do you got? You got a cleanser, you got a moisturizer, you got a mask. Then you've got all the cosmetics that you put on the next day, and so it's just like a bathing in soup chemicals that really predispose women, I think, to autoimmunity. And we see that, right? We see that increased risk for autoimmunity is definitely higher in women than men. I think that's part of the reason. Anyway, back to your point about castor oil being a master carrier.
I agree though, like 100%, because the other issue is this, like when we started working with castor oil at Queen of the Thrones, like my biggest thing in clinical practice, I'm much like you, I would only carry the highest, best quality products, like, and I would need to make sure that it was third party tested and it had to be like the very best of the very best. And the same thing is true in Queen of the Thrones, because for me, like I work, I consume castor oil a lot. Like I'm putting it on my face, on my eyes, on my brows, on my lashes, on my body. Like I'm liver everywhere. Like I'm putting it everywhere. So I need to make sure that for me, for my own safety and health, that it's a high quality castor oil and it's free of like things like heavy metals and pesticides, and it's organic and there's no hexane. And so I've always been very, very strong at curating like a really high quality castor oil. But what happens in governmental regulations and rules is this, is that number one, if the ingredients have been tested, They are tested only individual. So I'm talking about things like makeup and body cleansers and different things like that. So say for an example, you have a aluminum, which is a common ingredient in eyeshadow. Get that? Aluminum is a common ingredient in eyeshadow. So we know that many companies have gotten rid of aluminum in their antiperspirants because they're toxic, right? And they've switched on over to like deodorants, or they've made different options because aluminum is toxic, but you find aluminum in eyeshadow. According to many of the different like beauty and health app aids, one like Think Dirty is one of them. They consider those metals actually safe. And they do because they've only really studied them in isolation. And they haven't really studied them like when you buy an eyeshadow or you buy a moisturizing formula, that whole formula is not tested together. And depending on what the ingredients are within the formula, if there's any glycerins, any oils, any certain alcohols, well, then that makes it way more permeable to the epidermis and it goes deeper down into the dermis. And so we're in a kind of a catch-22 that, if we really wanted to regulate the industry well, if we really wanted to make sure that the consumer was safe, we would literally have to spend millions and billions of dollars probably at this point in time. And so would companies. They'd have to incur the cost to actually test what their product does before launching it to market, right? Because, it's not only that, so we don't know what the single ingredients do. They might be safe on their own in isolation, but may not be in combination. And then what we don't know is we don't know the long-term effect of, as you said, putting that soup on every single day. We just don't know the effect. The studies are all done over a short period of time. So then, it's a huge catch-22. And this is one of the reasons too why I love swapping for things like castor oil or single ingredients, because then if you're dealing with one single ingredient, well, there's no guesswork. It's simple. You know what it is. It's castor oil. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's really where I came from. And I started with castor oil cosmetically, really just going to the things that I use the most frequently, which was I tried daytime moisturizer castor oil. Castor oil does not work as a daytime moisturizer. It's too thick, so don't do that. That was my first try. But what I do recommend for daytime moisturizer are things like natural oils, right? Like all you need is a combination of natural oils like jojoba or any sweet almond oil, any kind of, I really love Camellia sinensis oil, which is like a green tea extract. That's really high in antioxidants. So for the daytime, you're just looking for like a high antioxidant oil. But in the nighttime, there's a lot of things that we're doing. We're washing our faces, we're removing our makeup. And when we wash our face, we don't just use a wash or soap. We typically use a cleanser, a toner. So that's 2 products. We then remove our eye makeup, typically with toxic wipes or toxic eye makeup remover. And then we usually will apply a nighttime moisturizer on our face. So that's 4 products. And then we'll do an eye serum. And then we'll also do brow and lash serum. So that's a lot of money. 6 products. And it might sound like a lot of work, but when you get to be as good as women are at doing it, they're pretty fast at their nighttime routine. Like I'm skilled. Like I can do it like no problem. And with castor oil, I think that's even the even greater thing about castor oil is that it's even easier and it's even better to do because it's a lot more simpler. So I then started investigating like ancient texts. Did they use oil? And actually, if you look at ancient texts, they actually used oil to wash their faces, right? Because oil, like, what does it do? Like pulls like. Oil is a cleanser for the skin, right? So if you do like an oil face wash, you're actually cleansing your skin. And it's as simple as steam your face with a wet cloth, put a little dollop of castor oil between your hands, mix it together. It's a little bit of wetness on your palms, and then apply it all to your face. Put a little extra oil around your eyes where you might have extra makeup. And then take that same cloth and wipe it all off. And you've washed your face, you've toned it, you've removed your eye makeup, and you've done your nighttime moisturizer with that all in one. Imagining it's fast. And then for the
more like it to me.
Yeah, it's way simpler. And then for the nighttime eye serum, it's simply reapply more castor oil around the eyes. and eyebrows and eyelashes. And then just wear a simple sleep mask to keep it containered around your eyes while you sleep. And so you've now saved yourself 6 products. It's simple, it's easy. You're not taking in anything like fragrance. Fragrance is an ingredient you always want to look on the label because fragrance is notorious for it being hundreds of different chemicals that manufacturers and companies do not need to list out, because back in the day when fragrances were trademarks, right? So by law, you don't have to let people know what is in your fragrance. You can just say fragrance on the bottle. And that's where a huge amount of toxins come into lots of beauty products. And then and tons of phthalates and again, endocrine disrupting chemicals. And the thing with endocrine disrupting chemicals also is people think that you need an enormous amount of it, but you actually don't. Like, people can feel benefit by starting to reduce their load in their beauty routine, because it's actually, our body works on hormones, not on massive doses of it, but on micromolecular doses of hormones. And so in these beauty products, one application of a high fragrance cream of some sort on your body, on your face, around your eyes, can really significantly have an effect on your hormones in the evening before you go to bed and while you sleep. So that was a big reason why I wanted to start with my evening routine first and fix that one, because there was too many chemicals coming in and I just wanted it to be simple. And because I'm, as you are well aware of how important sleep is for natural detoxification and for the body to clean out, I didn't want to overload my system at night with toxins from beauty products.